Thank you, guys.
Hello, everyone. I want to give my own little introduction right now, and I said this to you earlier. The coolest thing, or one of the coolest things in this industry, is when I get to see someone who's so wildly talented, builds a massive fan base, and then uses that notoriety and that ability to shine a spotlight on projects that they're passionate about in a way that makes things happen that either might not happen at all or not happen in the way that they should. That's what you're doing with your career, and that is what we're here to highlight today. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm also very excited that we get to follow my little Collider Ladies Night roadmap a little, because I would like to learn a little bit more about your early days in acting, film, and television. And I always love starting with this question.
Oh, man.
What was the first movie you saw, performance you saw, or personal experience you had that made you say to yourself, I absolutely have to be an actor?
Oh, my goodness. You know, growing up, I actually just lived in my imagination. I was always outside building imaginary worlds. In school, I would randomly write scripts, and I didn't even really know what scripts were, and have my friends play them on the playground. And I think that when I realized what movies and TV shows were and what actors were, and that you could play all these pretend worlds and be all these people, that's actually what encouraged me. Like, I'm so amazed and fascinated by tons of films and actors, but it was truly just the idea of being able to be more than just myself.
I'm just curious, do you remember what any of those screenplays are? Like what you used to like writing about?
It was just random. I mean, I need to go through it because I actually just found a notebook, and it had all of my little write-ups from like 4th grade.
I know this is a lot to ask, but I feel like you should share it. It would inspire so many young people out there, I'm telling you.
Maybe.
All right, so you identify the dream to become an actor. I have 2 questions about what happens next. One from the crafts perspective, and then another in terms of navigating the business. So you want to be an actor, but I find that in this industry, it can be really tough to like fully believe in yourself and have confidence in your craft. So do you remember the first thing that happened that gave that to you, that made you feel like you deserved to be here?
I think that didn't come until a lot later. I always had the motivation that I wasn't going to accept no, even from like 10 years old. But the feeling of, I'm here, I deserve this, I feel confident in the space, didn't happen until much, much later.
What specifically? I mean, I could think of a number of things, actually. I'm just like thinking about all the nominations you've received. And I mean, that's got to give you a nice backing there.
It's incredible, and I get to play such diverse, interesting, challenging roles, and that's what I dream of doing. So whenever I get the opportunity to play a character like Cassie or Cecilia in Immaculate, like that is what makes me feel really good, and I'm happy to be able to do.
I'm not sure if this has happened, but is there, or if you can remember anything with such specificity, but is there any fan interaction you've had, whether it's at a convention or a festival like South by Southwest, that I guess signaled to you that like not only is your work good, but it really matters to people?
I get so happy and excited whenever people come up to me and they share their stories about when they watched either Euphoria or White Lotus or whatever project it was and what it meant to them, because that's why I do it. Being able to connect with so many people through my characters is such a beautiful experience. And I have like a group of people that I always see in New York or in Italy or Paris, and it's always really amazing to see familiar faces and watch them grow as I grow as well.
That makes me so happy to hear. All right, the other half of my question was the business side of it all, and big 2-part question here. You'll notice I like 2-part questions. I apologize in advance. So you decide you want to become an actor. At that point, what did you think was step 1 to making that dream a reality? And then ultimately, would you recommend that first step to an aspiring actor?
I was quite young. So I did not know anything about the industry. Came from a small town, Spokane, Washington, has nothing to do with this world. And my parents had nothing to do with this world either. And they thought that acting was like wanting to be a princess. It was unattainable. It was just a far-stretched dream. She'll come out of it one day. And when I was young, I was like 10 years old, this really small indie came to town. and I found out about it. And I wanted to audition really bad. But my parents were like, what? What's going on? So I put together a 5-year business plan presentation of what could happen if they let me audition for this movie. And in it had, like, if I audition and I book it, then I'll meet people on this set that will then introduce me to an agent, and then the agent can get me auditions for commercials and short films, and then maybe I'll have a resume. We could go down to LA for pilot season when pilot season was still a thing. And my parents realized I was pretty serious about my dream.
That's so much industry awareness at that age. I'm very impressed.
My parents definitely taught me to do a lot of homework and research and try and figure out as much as you can before you start asking questions. So,
can you name one specific thing from that 5-year plan that became a reality where you're like, I did that bullet point?
It took 10 years, but getting an agent and then starting to get auditions.
Oh, I love talking about agents because I feel like we don't do that nearly enough in like the interview line of work. When you found your agent, what was it about that person that signaled to you they wouldn't just help you, I guess, navigate this business in a successful way where you get work, but that you were getting work that felt right to you and mattered to you?
So my agent, Jennifer Millar, she's here, and Scott Melrose and everyone at Paradigm, they've been my agents since day one. And I have such an amazing team, and I'm so thankful for them because they fight for me like no other, and I couldn't imagine doing this without them.
Such an important thing in this business to have a good team like that at your back. So looking at some of your earliest credits, of all of your first shows and films, which one would you say helped put into focus the most the types of stories you would really want to tell going forward and the types of sets you would want to work on?
It would be Sharp Objects and Handmaid's Tale. So I filmed those right, like, in the same year. And Sharp Objects was one of the first shows that I got cast in that wasn't just like a co-star or a featured extra. And I will never forget Jean-Marc Vallée. He saw in me what I hoped that other people would see in myself, and I appreciated everything that he did for me. And then during that time, I also worked on Everything Sucks, which is with Michael Mohan, who directed Immaculate. And he's the first director to hire me in a series regular role on a show. And so it was just such a beautiful way to start to feel more confident in the room and have characters that really meant a lot to me.
Before I get too far ahead with some really big titles that I know everyone's going to want to hear about, I always love asking this question, especially to cover the early days of someone's experience in this industry. Can you give me an audition high and low, like a wonderful moment, but then, not necessarily.
Oh, I've had so many lows.
I was going to put a positive spin on it.
Auditioning process sucks. It sucks a lot. Lows, it's sometimes casting directors aren't your friends. I've had casting directors who would eat food while I was in an audition, or take a phone call, or not look up from a page, or I just wouldn't feel great.
Do you have an audition low where you learned something from it that you were able to apply to future auditions, and whether or not a casting director was doing that, you were still able to make it a positive experience for yourself?
Yes, this one's ingrained in my memory because I will never be able to forget it. I was 14. It was the first time that I got to test for a recurring role on a TV show, and I think it was for ABC Family. And I'd never walked into a room with more than 2 people before. And this time it had the producers, the writer, the director, and the casting directors and the assistants. And I remember walking down these stairs, and it almost felt like a stage. And I got so nervous. I have stage fright. I'm a little nervous right now. And I just forgot all my lines. I was so scared, and I remember just standing there apologizing profusely, and then I just asked to leave. And that moment just set me up for knowing I can't control everything. It's okay to look at the page. It's okay to be nervous, because I was so scared that I was nervous, but I've now taken all these nervous energy and turned it into excitement.
We were literally just talking about this backstage. I think nerves in this industry, or really anything that you do, aren't a bad thing. It's not having the nerves that's bad, because maybe it's a sign that you're not as passionate anymore. So nerves come from caring.
I like that.
I told you, I have a positive spin on everything. The audition high now.
Audition high. One of my audition highs was with this casting director. His name's David Rubin, and it was actually for Sharp Objects. And he was one of the first casting directors who memorized all the lines, actually felt like I was doing a scene, and I hadn't felt that because I'd never really done much other than a small co-star role. And it just felt amazing, and I will forever appreciate that. I actually hired him on a movie that I'm producing now because I hope that actors feel that same way when they walk in.
You read my mind with a follow-up question. I was going to ask how you find your casting directors now, given your own experience.
Yeah.
It's important, and I'm so excited that at the Oscars, we're finally going to recognize a casting director's contributions, which feels so long overdue.
Yeah, no, they're a huge part of the entire process.
All right, I'm going to ask a question that I will admit is unfair, but given we're talking about casting directors and agents, can you name an unsung hero on one of your shows or films? Like someone who's not on the poster, not a director, someone behind the scenes that makes a big difference in your day-to-day on set?
I mean, the entire crew is so vital to everything day-to-day on a set, from the PAs, grip, sound, transpo, crafty, everyone makes the day happen, and you have to thank everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Your mentality with how this business operates it's so clear how well suited you are to be a leader as a producer, and I love that. All right, I want to touch on Euphoria briefly, and the way that I'm going to get at that is I always love asking people about the experience of breaking out in Hollywood, because it could look one way to the outsider, and it could be a completely different experience for the person going through it. Two-part question, but I'll break it up. First, what would you say is a misconception about having a breakout project in this industry?
Oh my goodness. That's a good question. I think that one of the biggest misconceptions is that your life changes overnight, because it doesn't. At least for me, it didn't. I still auditioned for White Lotus and every project that I had after that. It opened more doors, but I still had to put in the work and the effort to continue doing what I love.
So you mentioned opening doors. The other half of that question is, what is something that truly did change for the better when Euphoria came out and it was embraced so wholeheartedly? So open doors, and is there anything else that...
The connection with the fans. I mean, it's so amazing being able to walk into a room and have people who want to talk to you about something that your character or the story or the project meant to them. It's beautiful to have that relationship now with people.
It's so important. I mean, why else do we do it, you know? Why else do these interviews happen if not for the passion and the connection people have to these projects, which matters? The other thing I wanted to ask you about was the reality of getting nominated for an Emmy, because, depending on what stage of your career that you're at, an award nomination can mean a variety of things. So when those nominations came in, what did it mean to you then, and has that meaning evolved at all?
I think I'm still in denial that it happened. I was filming at the time, so I didn't really allow myself time to process what was happening. And even when I was actually at the Emmys, I don't think that it hit me what was happening. I always have imposter syndrome when it comes to that kind of stuff. But it's incredible. Both Olivia from White Lotus and Cassie from Euphoria, they mean so much to me, and I thoroughly enjoyed playing both of those characters and the people that I got to work with on both of those sets. So having both shows be recognized, and then also just the characters themselves, it's incredible. It's everything you dream of as an actor.
I love awards, Susan. I love the fact that like someone feels celebrated, and I love the fact that encourages other people to celebrate others in the industry as well. I'm a big cheeseball with that stuff. Here's a really big question, but I think it's important to talk a little bit about in terms of your journey to becoming a producer. Do you remember the very first time when you could feel the power of your own voice on a set, when you spoke up and it made a difference?
When I was working with Michael Mohan, he just is so incredible, and I always felt very comfortable and safe to be able to like maybe share an idea, and whether he took it or not, it was important. He just at least gave me the space to be able to speak my mind and my thoughts and feel involved in the process. And that definitely encouraged me. I mean, I was like 19 on Everything Sucks, and in that moment, I remember I wanted to be a part of more than just acting.
Ideal quality to have in a collaborator. Here's a really big question. This is one of my favorite acting questions to ask, though, because there are so many different approaches to the work out there. Can you name a co-star on any of your projects that has a similar process to your own, where the second you hit set, you are immediately in sync? But I also want the opposite, someone with a unique approach that challenged you to adapt and try something new.
I don't think I can put any of my co-stars on the spot right now. I've been really lucky. A lot of the people that I get to work opposite of are really fun, and I love everyone.
You have some of the best of the best. I'll get at a co-star question. Well, I mean, like different process. I don't mean to like put a process down, because every single process is valuable, and by experiencing a new one, it can inspire something new in yourself. Can you recall a time when maybe you were having a tough time with a scene, but because what a scene partner gave you, it helped you reach something in the moment that you wouldn't have been able to without them?
There was a scene when we were filming Euphoria where Maud and I were supposed to be fighting, and the scene, we were still working the scene out, and I remember like Maud and I were sitting on my character's bed, and we were talking through this what we were supposed to do, and Sam came in, and we kind of just like started talking through it, and Maud is so smart. Like, she is an incredible writer, and she needs more credit because she's incredible, and she really just kind of like helped rework the entire scene, and it was really cool to see.
I've never spoken to her, but I've watched a lot of interviews, and like you can just tell she's tuned in a very special way. Before I get to some specific producing questions, I wrote down SNL, and because you've been talking a little bit about stage fright, so I am really curious how that experience was for you with some stage fright built in.
It's terrifying, guys. It was so scary. My mouth dried up. Oh my gosh, I'm like having panic attacks thinking about it. But it was so much fun, and I really wanted to do it. I knew I was going to be terrified going into it, but I wanted to do it because I think it's important to do things that scare you. I always choose characters because they scare me and they challenge me in new ways. And the whole entire SNL experience was a challenge, and it was terrifying. And I think it's good to face fears. I still have the same fear, but I faced it, so.
No, it's important to face fears and keep growing. Follow up on that, I guess kind of leaning into Immaculate a little here, is that role, I guess, like the scariest or most intimidating? And if not, what role that you've done is?
I think Cecilia, where she ends up, is definitely the most terrifying character. She starts unexpected.
You all have no idea. We're going to get to this later. I'm very excited about we're not going to spoil anything, of course, because the movie hasn't premiered and I want you to experience it in full, but I'll say this like repeatedly for the rest of our conversation. You should be so proud of that movie, but in particular, that ending. Just blows my mind. So getting into your interest in producing, do you remember what initially sparked that itch? Like an experience you had on a set that made you think, you know, like, I could maybe influence a set for the better if this comes up again?
When I was filming Sharp Objects, I had a small role, but Jean-Marc created such an incredible environment on set where I felt like I didn't have to leave. So I would come and hang out and sit at Video Village with his producing partner, Nathan Ross, and I would just sit and watch and learn and listen. And I remembered during that time, I was like, I'm gonna try and observe everything I can because I wanna do this one day. I didn't know when, how, any of it. I just knew that if I can be in these rooms and learn from these people, that I can kind of like take bits and pieces and put it into my own.
I don't want to put you on the spot with this question, but like you seem very knowledgeable about every single aspect of a production. Is directing and fully leading a production an itch you want to scratch one day?
Maybe.
Okay. I'll take maybe. I'll
Yeah.
take maybe. Crack that door
Has to be the
open.
right story, and then maybe.
Given how much of one's life they must pour into a film, no matter what role they're in, actually. I feel like that's the way to get at it. Okay, another question about producing for you, because I feel like being a producer can mean a multitude of things. Like a lot of people out there don't fully know what it means on any single production because like there's different titles. There's producer, there's executive producer, and then some. And it also can mean something different for the person who's actually filling that role. So what does being a producer mean to you, and how do you want to influence the projects you work on for the better?
To me, being a producer, and whenever I personally will put my name as a producer on a project, means I'm a part of it from the beginning to the end. I don't want to miss a step. I want to be a part of everything I can put my hands on. I do not like the idea of just putting my name on something and taking credit where it's not due. I want to conceptualize the project and bring it all together. So to me, being a producer is basically like being a parent and helping a project grow.
These projects are babies. I
Yeah.
think that's a pretty accurate description there. I did want to bring up Anyone But You and how that's impacted your approach to producing, because the success of that movie is just, like, it's astronomical, it's wild, it's unexpected, and it's something that I imagine you want to learn from. So is there any takeaway from the success of that movie that you think you're going to apply to the projects you produce going forward?
Yeah, I mean, that Anyone But You is such an incredible experience from the beginning when I was working on the script, and then like I hired Will and I hired Glenn and we sold it to Sony. It was always, I wanted to bring back those early 2000 rom-coms that people went and then they left wanting to fall in love. And they left wanting to sing and dance in the rain and have big romantic gestures. And I didn't want to look at the rom-com as something small. I wanted to have big set pieces, and Will did such an incredible job at like really amping up those set pieces in this film. And I think that by creating an environment on set where we truly had so much fun and we just shared in all of that love and the excitement while we were filming, like the audience felt that on screen. And I hope that I can create more projects where you feel that love, you feel that energy, and the audience can walk away wanting that as well.
Oh, I'm such a big believer that quality on set radiates off the screen in a movie as well. I have a couple follow-ups now. I believe you said early 2000s rom-coms. What's your personal favorite?
Okay, so this is really fun because my best friend's wedding, so Dermot, I was like obsessed with, and then we got him as my dad, and I was so excited and freaking out. And then we ended up screening the movie with him and the whole cast, and he watched it for the first time since the premiere. And that was, I mean, we were all crying our eyes out when he was talking about the entire experience.
Okay, I'm going to add one more layer to this. If you had the opportunity to remake the classic 2000s rom-com of your choice and play the starring role, who would you pick and why?
You can't ask that. Oh my gosh.
It's not erasing what's been done. It's celebrating it and broadening the
No,
audience.
because I'm gonna get dragged on social media.
Oh. I don't got to deal with that nearly as much as you do. I will respect that concern.
No matter what I say, they'll come at me.
Shifting gears from rom-com to horror now. First, I want to know, what is the very first movie you saw that kept you up at night?
Either Friday the 13th or The Exorcist.
Exorcist is a rock-solid choice.
I was really young. My dad loved horror films, and he showed them to me way too early.
I'm bad with that. People are always asking me, like, is this appropriate for my children? I'm like, I'm the last person in the world you should ask, because I was, like, growing up on Scream when I was a teeny tiny kid.
Exactly. My dad would say, yeah, you can watch that.
You've worked on a bunch of horror movies at this point, so that was one of the first. Those were one of the first horror movies you saw. Do you remember the first time you saw a horror movie that kind of made you like appreciate the movie magic of it and the effect it can have on an audience, where it left you wanting to make them yourself?
Probably, and these are like psychological horrors, Rosemary's Baby and The Shining.
A lot of Rosemary's Baby vibes in Immaculate that I really appreciated.
Well, I think like they appreciated that genre. Like I feel like now there's a lot of films that just, they're not cinematic. The characters aren't as strong, and I don't know what happened to storytelling where they felt like a horror genre, they don't deserve to have films like that anymore.
I feel like sometimes part of the problem is an emphasis on the scare over character, and the scare loses its value and impact when the character is not strong and you don't have that connection.
Why not both?
Yeah, I'll build on that a little. What's a recent horror movie you saw that you think gets it right and you wish more filmmakers out there would be inspired by?
Either Barbarian, Us. I was terrified by Us. That was, I still have nightmares. So those are probably,
premiere.
Yeah, no, it was so good.
It was one of the greatest nights I've ever had here.
It was incredible, absolutely incredible.
I'm not going to tell you how many times I've watched that movie. So getting into Immaculate, and specifically when you audition, because I know you auditioned like a while back, and then the project kind of stalled before it turned into what we're going to see this weekend and tonight for some out there. What would you say is the biggest difference between how you pictured the film when you first auditioned and the movie you wound up making?
I got to make it myself, which when I'm 16, like I didn't know. Thank you guys. Yeah, I mean, I auditioned hoping I'd get cast in a movie, and now I look back and I'm like, Sid, you made it. Like, that's so cool.
It's a big deal. You should celebrate that to kind of, demystify what it's like during that period of time when a film doesn't have any forward momentum. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened between, I believe that audition was 2017? Do I remember
I was
that
16,
date?
so.
What happened between 2017 and Greenlight?
27, no, it'd be like 2014. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, the script went into turnaround, and no one ended up making it. So pulled out the clean draft, which is like the first draft. And I then started putting the team together. I brought on Dave Bernard, who was a producer on White Lotus, and while we were filming season 1, I can't remember what scene we were filming, but Dave, when I came back to Video Village, was like, we need to do a horror film. And I go, well, funny you say that. I might have a script. And so I brought him on, and he helped just navigate the whole world, because I have never done anything before. And so we met with financiers, and we brought on a financier, Black Bear. And once we started doing that, we brought on Michael Mohan, our director, and we started working on the script because time has passed and we wanted to update it, also update the character to fit who I am now. And then it all started to become a really fast process.
Can you tell us a little bit about how the character changed and how the age change might change the narrative of the film?
So originally it was set in Ireland, and it was a boarding school. And her parents died, and she got sent to this boarding school. And then the basis and the groundwork is pretty much the same.
Very interesting. Here's a big two-parter about first digging into like the current version of the character. When you were first getting ready to start filming, what quality of hers were you most looking forward to tapping into? But then also, is there a quality you found along the way as you were working like on set with your team, with your scene partners?
I think one of the most exciting parts of Cecilia was how innocent she was and where she goes at the end. Because it's such an unexpected journey. She finds strength within herself that she has no idea she has, that she's forced to unlock. And it's really fun and exciting to play a character who unlocks potential that they don't know they have.
This is a big question, but she is so she's so sincere, she's so kind, she's so open at the beginning. What is it like for you, like playing that in, I don't know, I guess like a believable manner where it can be the starting point to her growing into like the force she becomes in the tail end of the movie?
I'd hope to say I'm kind and nice, and so that part wasn't a stretch. It was because she was just in this new environment. Everything felt very beautiful. So like the film feels more clean and crisp, and the colors are more vibrant. And then as it goes on, like Michael and Elijah and our editors did such an amazing job of just like grading up the film and making it feel darker and the world feels smaller.
It's so powerful. I wish I had written down, Michael, it's such a nice thing to say about you just in terms of the evolution of the character and how well you're able to capture that. And I can't remember the exact words because I didn't write them down, but they were very accurate. The performance is really something else in this. Looking at the production design and everything that's involved in that part of it, are there any little details that you were able to add to Cecilia via the environment and also the costume work that you were able to work with?
Everything. I mean, Italy was such an amazing backdrop for this film. I truly felt like the locations were characters in themselves. And Adam Reamer, who helped design and set deck everything, is so incredibly talented and just elevated every room that you'd walk into. It felt lived in, it felt haunting. There was just, every little detail was so thought out. And it just helps your character really feel like she's living in this world.
I don't know if you remember something this specific with enough clarity, but is there any little detail in the costume work or production design that, you know, people might miss on a first watch, but it's important to filling out the world and you hope that they catch it?
Ooh, that's such a great question. There's bits and pieces. Well,
we want to be careful.
I know.
Spoilers.
I'm like, how do I?
This is a very difficult movie to talk about, like, to the fullest while avoiding spoilers.
I know, because there's like the third act of the film. There's a place that this character goes. I don't know how to say it without.
I'll have a question that could kind of get at that. I actually have another way to look at, you know, a little bit of what I just was bringing up. I had read somewhere you like building memory books for your character, and this is kind of a similar thing to finding a detail on a set. But we do learn a little bit about Sister Cecilia's backstory in the movie, but is there anything in that memory book you came up with that we don't necessarily see or hear directly in the movie, but we could still feel informing your performance?
Her search for friendship. I think so. I always imagined that she was always an outsider. She never felt like she had a friend group or someone to rely on, which is why she easily was able to drop everything and go to this unknown convent in Italy. And she finds sisterhood through like Gwen, who's played by Benedetta, and incredible. She's amazing. And it was really important to me to have a character who truly falls in love with this place that's about to torture her, and have it like a weird dynamic.
What a way to describe that. In an effort to highlight more of your incredible co-stars here, can you tell me about a time on set when, I don't know, one of them just far exceeded your expectations? Like, you're well aware of how talented they all are, but when they took something to another level and you're like, damn, that's why you're part of this team.
Honestly, every day. I was so blown away by the cast on this film because it was a leap of faith. I mean, it was a first film that I'm producing and put together, and we're all these Americans in Italy, and we're filming a little small movie, and they just they trusted us, and they gave us so much. I mean, Alvaro and Benedetta and Simona, everyone was just so incredible. And there's so Julia, who this is her first film. She's never been in a short film before. She's never done anything, and she is so incredible. I'm so excited for people to see her in this movie, and also everyone else. But it was just beautiful to watch all of their work.
Speaking of this being her first, I feel like we often talk about how newer actors can learn from acting veterans. Is there anything you picked up from her as someone who is kind of coming in with a fresh perspective and, no pressures set by previous experiences, if that makes sense?
She doesn't have social media. And she doesn't live on her phone or any of that. And I just thought she was the coolest person ever, just living in the moment, building relationships, becoming friends with all the crew. And I loved that.
That is an important thing to highlight.
Loved it.
Here's where some of my questions get a little dangerous, and I'm looking at the time now. I'll just remind everybody that in about 5 minutes, we're gonna take some audience questions. So this is kind of the last chance to submit them through the South by Southwest Go app, and then we're gonna get to as many as we possibly can. I hope we can avoid spoilers. Of all the very ambitious scenes in this movie, which did you think was gonna be the toughest for you? And then ultimately, was it the toughest, or was it a different one?
I thought the ending was going to be the toughest. It was hard in its own way, but you'll see. It's the first take, and that's it. But the hardest one was actually I'm running through a field, and Mike, I'm running through a field, and it was freezing cold. It rained the entire morning. I was barefoot, and it was weirdly the hardest day because I got so cold I couldn't feel my feet anymore, and I didn't know that I was cutting my feet wide open, and it was a whole thing.
Stunning shot. And this isn't a spoiler. You could go and see this shot in the trailer. It's really just beautiful imagery. I'm trying to find a way to talk about that ending without talking about the ending.
I know.
Can you tell me something about your prep process as an actor that was, I guess, kind of one of a kind for a performance beat like that versus what you're used to doing?
This is probably so controversial, but I don't like to rehearse. I don't like to plan things. I don't like to have anything set. I like to just know what's my space that I can work in, where's the cameras, and let's just see what happens.
Not controversial.
Sometimes actors don't like that, and filmmakers don't like that, and so I have to work with it.
That's fair.
But it was something where Mike and I and Elijah, we just kind of were okay, we're gonna start here, we'll move over here, we'll come back, let's see what happens. And then we just took a second, and we did it.
I'm always wary about overhyping things. I try to respect the problem that could spark, but I believe this with my whole heart. That is an exceptional performance beat. And I said this earlier to you, and I'll happily say it to this crowd. I would be shocked if that wasn't one of my favorite scenes of 2024 at the end of the year. It is really, you have something really special to look forward to.
Thank you.
So 2 questions now about what you gained from Immaculate that you're hoping to take to future projects. First, I'll ask it as an actor. What is a new tool in your acting toolkit, so to speak, that you gained from this production that you're eager to use more on a future one?
As an actor, I gained, honestly, family. I think that like I've been so on the go and everything's been so like one after the other, and I never had time to truly like sit and build relationships. And when I was on Immaculate, one, it felt like my playground and my world, and I just wanted to become friends with everyone so that they felt welcomed as well. And as an actor, like I've just now taken that into everything that I do, and I hope that I can have tons of friendships and everybody just feels happy and excited to be there.
I say this all the time. Filmmaking families make me so happy, and they're so important. I feel like that answer could answer this version of the question as well. But what about being a producer? Because I believe this is the first like full producing credit, like not EP, but a producer.
Yeah.
What is a new tool or something you learned about what it means to be a producer that you are going to apply to your next film?
Honestly, just knowing and appreciating all of the crew's time and their energy.
Such a good answer.
Yeah.
Such a good answer. We're going to turn to the audience questions in just a minute, but before we do that, I love ending my interviews on this question. I will warn you, nobody likes this question,
Oh, no.
but I think it's a very, you'll understand why when I ask it, but I think it's a very important thing to ask people and just highlight in general, because we've spoken about awards during this conversation. This is an industry that loves to give other people awards. I find that a lot of artists never say good job to themselves nearly enough. So can you tell me something you did on Immaculate that you know you'll be able to look back on and say, damn, I'm really proud of what I did there? This is the response I expect.
I'm really proud of myself for not taking the answer no. I mean, I didn't get cast in the project to begin with. They didn't end up making the movie, and I didn't let that stop me.
It's a great answer. You should be very, very proud of that on this project, and like never let that mentality go. It's going to steer you in the right direction. I know it. All right, we've got a lot of questions here. The first one we will ask is from Andrew. What's your favorite indie movie?
Ooh, my favorite indie movie? I mean, Midsummer was an indie movie to begin with, and it just became a huge indie movie, but I love Midsummer.
That's a good one. That's a good one. All right, next up, also Andrew, with such a fast-moving industry, how do you stay moving forward in your career? Is there any fear as you continue down this journey?
I think that it's what I was saying about being challenged, making sure that I'm finding characters that challenge me in different ways, different stories to tell. I want to play anything and everything that people won't expect me to do.
I'll kind of build on that from the producer perspective briefly, because the industry is changing, distribution models are changing, viewer habits are changing. Is there anything about kind of the new landscape that you're heavily considering when choosing what projects to work on?
Honestly, it's just whether the story makes you either question things or excites me or challenges. It's truly just, do I think that this will be a conversation piece for people? Do I think that this will make people feel a certain way?
I feel like that's the right answer. Quality of content forward, always. All right, next up we have Jolie. How do you shift the industry's objectifying gaze into a source of empowerment and leverage?
That's a deep question.
That's a beautiful question.
That is a very deep question. I just keep playing characters that people don't think that I'd play. I honestly don't know the answer to that.
I love that though.
Yeah.
I keep thinking about, because I have the Oscars on the brain, Mark Ruffalo and his role in Poor Things, thinking that wasn't in like the section of films that people associated him with, so feeling that taking the role was wrong, but then obviously it was so incredibly right for him.
Yeah, and that's
Like
empowering.
Everyone should reach for that. This is from Anthony. Who is a director you haven't worked with and would really like to?
Ooh. Whenever I dream up these names. I'm like, oh my God, I better pick someone good so that I get to work with them next.
Manifesting too.
No.
I believe in speaking this into existence.
I mean, Martin Scorsese is incredible. I just got to work with Ron Howard, and that was a dream of mine.
Oh.
So one of my dreams came true.
I'll also say, just because no Poor Things is on my brain, go work with Yorgos Lanthimos.
I mean,
Alexander says, have you found recently that sets are becoming less straight male dominated? If so, what roles are you seeing being filled by non-male straight people?
I've been pretty lucky to work on sets with crews of all diversities. I love seeing a female behind the camera. I love seeing a female in the sound department.
I like that. Next up is from Brady. Hey, Sydney, what was your most unexpected experience from your hosting gig at SNL? Any funny behind-the-scenes stories?
The most unexpected experience? I mean, the entire thing was unexpected. It's just a roller coaster. You get thrown left, right, up, down. You just have to like hold on for dear life and just trust everybody. I think one of the most unexpected was how fast the actual live taping is. Because when you do it right before it, there's a live show, but it's not taped, or not taped, but it's not live. And you do all the skits. And then for the actual live show, they cut some of them, and then it goes so fast. And I'm like, wait, this is already over? It was crazy.
I have a follow-up to that. Is there anything that you do as an actor in general, like on film and TV sets, that you kind of had to shake to adapt to the SNL way of doing sketches and tapings?
It was the cue cards. I've never worked with cue cards before. And it was funny because they were like, you want to look at the cue cards because if you look at the actor, it looks weird. And I was like, oh, this is gonna be not right for me.
I've had so many people tell me one of the most shockingly high-pressure parts of being an actor is when you have to go to an award show to present an award, and it's nerve-wracking, like being up there and reading off the prompter in the back.
It's not natural. Also, I'm supposed to wear contacts, but I'm scared of contacts, and I don't wear glasses, so I can't see anybody right now. I'm having to squint to see what this is, so... What? Oh, thanks. But I couldn't see the cue cards, so if you notice, I'm like this sometimes. And my eyes get really red because they're strained, and yeah, it's a personal problem.
Contacts are not that bad.
When I was young,
Oh boy.
a very small, like short film I did, they put contacts in my eyes, and the people who did it put hand sanitizer on their hands. And then put it in my eyes, and I've never felt that kind of pain before, and I've never been able to put contacts in since. Another personal problem.
On my flight on the way here, I opened a thing of hand sanitizer and it shot out and it got my eye. That just brought me right back to that moment. I respect where the fear came from. No context for you for a little. I'll read these. Anna says, how do you choose your brand endorsements? How your personal relationship with brands and their parts on your projects, Miu Miu and presence in anyone but you. Oh, Miu Miu's presence.
So I always want to make sure that no matter what partnership I'm doing, it's organic and authentic to who I am. So Miu Miu was actually the first fashion show I ever went to in my entire career. And it's been just such a beautiful relationship that we've built now, and I've been working with them for years, and I love all their work, and they create the most beautiful custom dresses for me that fit my body and my body shape. And then like Ford, I built my Bronco. I love cars. And Laneige, like use all their skincare. Like everything's always a different branch of who I am. Like I feel like with acting, I'm getting to explore who I'm not and try out all these different lives, but through my brand partnerships, I get to kind of show different sides of who I am personally, and that's really fun for me.
What a fulfilling combination of things. I love that. Cooper says, "Hi, Sydney. I'm an actor currently pursuing an MBA in entertainment. How have you found your education in business to be helpful for your on-screen career so far?"
I think it's vital. I think that, number one, school is very important. My mom and my dad were always very, very persistent on the importance of school, and you are a business. Like, I am a business, you are a business. Every actor is their own company, and it's really important to know how to run that company.
That's so true. That's so true. I feel like people need to emphasize and respect the value of that even more, too. Emily wants to know, what is the one thing that makes or breaks a script for you in selecting projects?
Ooh, it truly just, it's all over the place. Whether usually if I can see the script in my mind play like a movie or a show, then I'm like, okay, I see how this could be made, and I'm excited about it. But it's usually just if I'm scared of it. If I'm scared of it, then it's the right one to do.
I'll follow up on that a little bit, and like I'll just emphasize, like, you very clearly have good instincts when picking things, but can you recall a time when you're like, I don't know about that, but someone you trust encouraged you to do it, and then you gained something from it?
I was really scared to do reality. My agent, Jen, she really advocated and pushed me to do it. And I was just scared of it because I'm usually very free with my words. And I've always worked with filmmakers who, like, they workshop the scenes with me. And this project, I mean, it was the transcript from the actual FBI interrogation. And so I wanted to make sure that I had every single word correct. And that was a big feat. We filmed it in 16 days. It was $1 million production. And we were filming like 25 pages a day, and it was just pure dialogue. And it was a challenge, and I was scared of it. And this is one that I'm really glad that my agent pushed me to do.
Exceptional, and that Critics' Choice nominee for that performance too. I was very proud to see that nomination pop up on the list. Yeah, definitely applaud for that. I have one follow-up to that also, just because, like, I don't know, it sounds like a simple, basic question, but it's important, and everyone has different techniques. What is a tip or trick you would give to another actor for learning their lines?
Oh my goodness. It truly is just, it comes with repetition and practice. I mean, it's gotten to a point now where I can just read it a few times and I'll know it, but it's different for everybody. I don't know if I have a tip or a trick.
That's why I'm always encouraging people to say more tips and tricks, because everybody's like brain processes that stuff in a different way, and one day they'll hear the thing that works for them, and I love it. Sergio says, who's your favorite comedian and why?
I don't know if I know many comedians.
I wish I could help you out with that, but I watch movies and TV.
I mean, I don't really watch a lot of stand-up. I'm sorry, I don't have this answer.
I'll give people an answer and say, if you haven't seen I Don't Understand You at this festival, it stars Nick Kroll. I thought it was a great blend of horror and comedy, and that cast is phenomenal. We have a question from Sam. Hey, Sydney, when you start preparing for a role, what do you do to step outside your inner self and become that character to convey the director's key vision?
So we talked about this earlier. I create character books, and it's a book that is basically this entire character's life, from the day they're born to the first page of the script. And it's all of their memories, their relationships, their childhood bedroom, their school locker. Like, it's everything that makes a person, so that I'm not putting anything of myself into a role. Like, I can't be thinking about if I have to be sad in a scene. Like, I don't want to be thinking about my own personal things, because then what makes me sad might not be portraying the same sadness that the character would be portraying. So I try to make sure that I separate myself as much as possible by building these memories and who these people are.
I'm such a backstory nerd. I feel like with all your roles, I would love to see these memory books.
Very wild.
Cindy says, in your opinion, how can actors/celebrities responsibly leverage their platforms to speak on social justice issues?
I think it's important to speak about the things that you're passionate about and just use your voice in a good and positive light.
Getting some heavy questions
I
here.
know,
Very
God, guys.
thoughtful questions.
So we're gonna get
this.
like, what's your favorite color?
What's your favorite color?
Baby blue.
Landry wants to know, hi, Sydney, was there anything about being on set for the first time that surprised you about the industry in a good way?
How small it actually is. Like how small this entire world is. You always are running into people you know.
It's true.
Yeah.
I love that part of it.
I do too. There's a lot of random people.
Alexander wants to know, when it came to the Lore Olympus
cool.
webtoon series, what was it like working on something of an somewhat of an experimental set, and what was the actor's process?
This was so fun. This was just like playing dress up. I had a great time. I downloaded webtoons and I was like reading all of the comic strips, and it was a blast. And being able to dress up and like paint myself a different color and play such a different character, I had a lot of fun.
I definitely want to get to this next question because I'm mad at myself for never verbally mentioning 50/50 Films during this conversation, which is your production company. Where did the name come from? And this question is from Emmanuel.
Hi,
Hey.
hi. Thank you for the question. I truly believe that it takes everybody to create something. Like, it's not just one person. I want to be 50/50 with all of my partners. I want to make sure that everybody has equal deals, feels that they are all equally at the table, and I just want to make sure that I'm 50/50.
That's the best answer ever. I love that so much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll squeeze in one more question from Jolie. What is your experience with fans that don't respect boundaries? How does that feel from the perspective of someone who is in the spotlight more and more?
I have to say, it's a tricky one because I understand that I am playing a character that they feel close to me where I don't know this person. So like they might have a relationship with me that I don't have with them. And so it's just something that I have to navigate and I'm still trying to figure out, but my DMs are not a safe space. There is no respect in those.
Respect the artist you admire. And this one right here is one to be respected. Seriously.
Thank you.
Congratulations on everything you've accomplished and Immaculate. I hope everyone is seeing it tonight, but if you're not, don't forget March 22nd, spread the word, and please know how sincerely I mean the movie is phenomenal and Sydney is excellent in it. Congratulations.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.